Why believe in Jesus? That is a question many people are asking today, not simply why believe in him or not believe in him, but why believe in him and not some other religion as the way to life. It seems appropriate, therefore, to me that from time to time we look not simply at what Jesus said and about what Paul and Peter and the others wrote about how he had inspired them, about what we ought to know and how we ought to live, but that we look specifically at the man, Jesus, the source of our faith. Why believe in Jesus? If someone asked you that question, how would you respond? I will share my response, and perhaps it will help you in the shaping of yours. Let's begin at the beginning with the disciples who were the first to believe. When I was a boy, we lived near a river, and my granddaddy and I used to go fish in that river. We set out trot lines, and we would bait fish and do whatever we could to catch fish for dinner. We called it supper then. When we couldn't catch a fish, we would go by this fish dock where there was a man who caught fish to sell. And we would pick up a fish and we would take it home. Perhaps you have done that. Perhaps you have bought a fresh fish along the shore of a lake or a river. This is what Peter did with his life. He and Andrew were commercial fishermen. They caught fish in the Sea of Galilee, and they would bring it to the shore where they would sell it to the neighboring people. When you think about that person along the lake or along the shore where you bought your fish, and for a moment imagine that person was Peter, would you have ever believed that that person would be one whose name would be known around the world? Would you have believed that one of the greatest, most influential cathedrals in the entire world would be named for him? Would you have believed that anything that he wrote would have been read for inspiration for 2,000 years? Probably not. But that happened to Peter because he met Jesus. Because Jesus transformed his life and made something beautiful of his life that never could have been. From Simon he became Peter, the rock. When you came back from another country outside the United States and encountered a customs agent, and that agent insisted that you open all of your luggage and go through it and prove that you weren't trying to sneak anything in, when he looked over the list and told you that there were taxes that you had to pay, would you have believed that he was a saint? Or that one day his writing would also be treasured for centuries? That's what happened to Matthew, the customs agent, the tax collector. He met Jesus and it transformed his life, and he made something beautiful of it and of what he had to say. Of course, there was Judas who betrayed Jesus. There was Pontius Pilate, the man whose name you would never have known, most likely, if he had not been in authority in Jerusalem at the time that Jesus was arrested and he turned him over to be crucified, even though he knew that Jesus was innocent. It was said of the tent maker from Tarsus that he was unimpressive in stature and his speech was contemptible. And yet Saul of Tarsus, the persecutor of Christians, became Paul, the proclaimer of the gospel to the Gentiles, because he met the living Christ. And it transformed his life and made something beautiful of one whom others had considered unimpressive. Why is this important? Because I think it helps us to understand our question and a response a little bit better. Why believe in Jesus? Because Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And what he has done for others, he can do for you. When you receive and believe in him, he can transform your life and make something beautiful of it. He can release a power into your lives and show you possibilities which you had never considered. The impact and influence of Jesus was not simply upon individuals, however, it was upon the world. Let me cite the most obvious example. You date your calendar 1993 A.D. A.D. meaning Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. The Jews have a calendar. The Muslims have a calendar. But when they put down the date on their calendar, they must also put down this date, because this is the calendar which is universally accepted for accounting time, which means that believers and unbelievers alike acknowledge Jesus as a pivotal person in the accounting of human history. There was an effort to have a calendar developed at the building of the city of Rome, AUC, but it didn't happen. There was another to have a calendar started with the French Revolution, which lasted 13 years, even in France. But this one, which dates itself by the life of Jesus Christ, continues to be used throughout the world. I also find this interesting. In newspapers, magazines, and periodicals where there are articles which attack Jesus, which seek to denounce him or deny he is who he was, silently, imperceptibly, they also pay tribute to him by the date of their publication, 1993 A.D., the year of our Lord. They can't get away from him. Why believe in Jesus? There's just something about that name, Jesus. One of the reasons I enjoy going to Israel is because of the reminder and the reassurance that this man in whom I believe was truly an historical character, not simply a mythical character thought up for some religion. He was born in Bethlehem. He was raised in Nazareth. He was baptized in the River Jordan. He fulfilled most of his ministry in the area of the Sea of Galilee, and he was crucified in Jerusalem, and you can still see all of those places and reminders that he once was there. When we go to Israel in June, we will stay on the top of the Mount of Olives near the place where Jesus walked into the city for his triumphal entry on Palm Sunday. And somehow when I'm there, I feel that I am walking where this historical character walked. The reason the early believers used the name of Caesar, Herod, Quirinius, and Pilate in their writings about their faith was to say that this man Jesus lived at a time in history which is datable by other events as well. Soon after he began his ministry, however, people began to recognize that there was something unique about Jesus. He was a man, but he was not an ordinary man. He was a good man who went about doing good, but he was more than a good man. He was a great teacher, one of the best they had ever heard, they said, but he was more than a teacher. He performed miracles, but he